What is going on, my friends? Eddie Walker here. So me and my friend Los from the BX, another great producer, we were working in Logic Sampler, and to be honest, both of us were having a lot of trouble there because we don't really use Sampler like that. But I tried some things out later when I got back to my studio, and I want to show you some things that I've learned. This is the Sampler. Up here you have your different ways to edit the sound in tuning, filtering, and of course volume and panning. In this section, the mod matrix, you can edit how your sound modulates, and you can use all of these different sources to control what element you want to modulate. A lot of versatility here. Obviously, you have your modulators, which are your envelopes, so your attack, sustain, decay, and release, and your LFOs, which are your low frequency oscillators. And once again, you can put those on all of these different targets. Here is the section that I think you can really have a lot of fun with. So here you can drag in your audio files and edit them so that you can play them across your MIDI keyboard. So for example, let's take the audio from the intro of this video. Let's say I want to drag this in. So right now, this entire intro is in here. Now, a fun thing that you can do is, let's say I want to snap these to the different transients. I made a bunch of copies of the sample, but I made them at different velocities. And I also moved the sample start and the sample end for each velocity. At each velocity point, there's going to be a different part of the sample that plays. So cool thing that you can do with something like this. So let's go into our piano roll here. So I have all of these sitting at C2. So let's see what happens. And the velocity of all of these is 80. Inside my sampler, it is going to play this sample each time. I'm getting the same sample every single time because I have the velocity of 80 going to. But let's see what happens when I switch these up. So what I'm going to go into, select all of these, Command A. And then I'm going to go into MIDI transform. I'm going to do random velocity. What's going to happen is each of these is going to switch to some random velocity inside of whatever range I go into. So operate. All right. So as you can see, we got a lot of different variations here. See what happens when we play this one through. So another way to edit these velocities that I just remembered, you can actually go into MIDI effects and you can do randomizer, and you can use the event type velocity, and you can change how random the velocities come up, and you'll get the same effect. Now, let's talk about a little bit more of a kind of practical application for using this. So let's say I want to trigger a hi-hat at certain velocities. Side note, this was what me and Los were trying to figure out. So what I'm going to do, I have 3 different hi-hat samples. So I have one fully closed, kind of half open, and then let me throw in the fully open. In order to kind of get the effect that I want, first of all, I want to make these all into one shots. Keep in mind here, when you're inside of the sampler, the velocities change as you go up the key. Low velocity, high velocity. Now, one thing you notice when you're doing this, if you want the traditional kind of choke on a hi-hat, notice that I'm still hearing the open hi-hat even when I'm off of it. So here's something else that you can do. If I were to move this over, another thing that we need to do to create this choke, we want to go into the synth section, go to details, go to mono. That way only one of these is activated at a time. Now, the downside to this, you have to have these all in different keys, which depending on the setting. As far as I can tell, there's no way to do a choke inside of one key. All right, my friends, that is it from me today. Hopefully you learned a little something about the sampler in Logic Pro. As always, thank you so much for following, liking, and subscribing. Please make sure you share, and we will see you guys again next week.